Hey, how's it going? Dave here, and in today's video, I'm joined by my producer friend, Caleb. Say hi, Caleb.
Hi.
And we are going to be talking about studio etiquette, what you should be doing in the studio as a recording guitarist, if that's what you want to be doing. So our first tip is to know your parts, and not just know your parts, but know your parts really well. So do you have any input on this?
Yes, a lot of time does get wasted, more than you think when you turn up to the studio and go, oh, I know the parts. No, I don't. What's that note? And then you're trying to learn the part in the studio. You're trying to learn it from one person who plays it slightly differently to the other person if there's two guitarists, which always confuses time.
That's always a thing. That's always a thing. Yeah. Actually, I was in a band, and the other guitarist played one of the notes in the song a semitone apart from where I played it. Oh. So when we were recording, we were getting this weird dissonance, and we're like, well, no, I was playing it right. No, I was playing it right. Yeah. So yeah, that's a really good point. As well as knowing your parts super well, make sure that if you've got another guitarist in the mix, then make sure they're playing the right thing as well, and you're on the same page.
If you're playing harmonies, actually know the harmony interval you're playing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, as you said, sometimes you're just going to be hitting the wrong note. And you're going to have dissonance, and it's going to be, oh, I'm playing it this way. I'm playing it correctly. No, I'm playing it correctly. And you're going to lose time arguing. And you might have a big fight. You might waste the day. You might even end up having to fire a guitarist because there's a big argument and one person just doesn't want to deal with them anymore. So just know your parts and actually be able to play them as well. That's another thing. Yeah. The amount of times you go to track something and you just physically can't play it and you lose time. So just make sure it's muscle memory before you even think about stepping in the studio. Just get it to a point where it's impossible to play it wrong, even if you want to.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. And actually, you mentioned something here. All these points are basically leading to, you've got to minimize time wastage while you're in the studio. You've got to do everything you can to maximize the effectiveness of the time you have.
So as they say, time is money, and you're paying for time with the studio and the producer, so you want to make sure you're doing what you can with the money you're spending.
Exactly. So our next few points are on communication and how you should communicate with your producer/engineer. This tip would be to let the producer know what you want, and don't be afraid to offer ideas. Make sure you speak up to let the producer know what you want.
Yeah, because I've had it before. I've been working with a band and they just feel like they're just there to play and we're there to record them. No, we're here to help you get the sound you want. And if you don't talk to us, we can't help you. And sometimes you'll get to the end of the day because the musician hasn't spoken to the producer about what they want. They get to the end and they go, oh, but I don't like it. It doesn't sound like this. It's like, well, if you told me that a couple of days ago, I maybe would have been able to go, right, no, let's see what I can do. And also, if you've got an idea for maybe something, the producer might want to try it out. You never know. A lot of us are quite open. We'll go, oh, that sounds interesting. We'll try it. And it's always a 7-minute rule. If you can't try an idea and get it to work in 7 minutes, you've only wasted 7 minutes rather than a lot of time trying to find out an idea that doesn't work. And if it works, it's great. You never know. And you might end up using it, especially as a producer. You might go on, keep using it, and it becomes a part of your workflow. So you never know. Just talk to us, and we'll do what we can. We're here to help you, and we can't do that unless we know what you want.
Absolutely. And then there's offering ideas to your producer, but then there's offering advice, which is usually unsolicited and not wanted. So make sure you know that you're offering ideas rather than advice, because the producer knows what they're doing. You hired them for a specific job. Things might not sound as you want them to sound as you're recording them, but there's a mixing and a mastering process that happens. That's when things start sounding really, really good. Yeah, so a really important tip would be to know someone who knows the genre that you're playing. It's really important. I've had a situation where I've taken up a producer who wasn't really too experienced in the genre that I was playing, and it turned out that they were mixing our song like a particular genre when we wanted it as another genre, and it just didn't really work out too well. Do you have any?
Yes, I guess, yes, particularly if you're a metal guitarist or in a metal band, you want someone who does metal, because it's very hard to go from a different genre to metal. I found it's easy from my personal experience working. I've done many projects that weren't metal. I'm primarily a metal producer, and I've done projects that weren't metal, and it's worked because I can kind of translate some ideas over, but going the other way, it just doesn't work. And unless you know what you're doing, it just doesn't turn out right. So make sure you go to someone who knows the genre you're in. Or maybe, sometimes you might want to go to someone who doesn't, but you need to know that they particularly, kind of have at least a rough idea of what they need to do. And sometimes going to a producer for a different genre works out, and you get Rolo Tomasi went with Diplo for one record.
Sure.
Who's Diplo? He's a electronic music producer primarily, and he did their second record, Cosmology. So it sometimes works out, but just for the most part, just stick with someone who knows your genre.
Our next tip would be to bring spares of everything. So spare leads, spare strings, spare batteries, spare what else?
Spare leads, spare batteries, cables, instruments if you can. Like spare guitars, spare strings, spare... Pretty much anything you can think of you're going to take with you, take more than one, because it will break at some point. And you never know when. Sometimes you'll be in the middle of a session and it will just go down, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. Or you'll be setting up for a session. I've had it before. Setting up for a big session, and while you're setting up, you lose time trying to figure out what a problem is. And you're like, what's the problem with this one particular thing? And it's so much easier to just go, right, no, get rid of that, get a fresh one in, and then figure out what the problem is with the other one later, and Absolutely. Just optimize your time. So yeah, just have more than one of everything, because everything breaks sooner or later, and you don't want it to be in the middle of your session.
This next point kind of goes back to the communication side of things, but it's basically don't be a dick and don't talk shit about other people, other bands or other producers. Even if you're trying to be positive about your producer by putting other producers down, don't do that, because producers speak to each other.
We all talk, producers, bands, we all talk to each other. We've all got stories that we've heard from people. So yeah, just try and keep it to yourself. Obviously, there's a time and a place, but yeah, no, just don't be a dick. Keep it to yourself, and just try and keep a friendly environment going.
And remember that also your producer can make you sound very bad if he does not approve of your antics. So just bear that in mind. Be a very nice person.
We can be professional as hell and just let it go, or we can really fuck up your record in 2 or 3 moves. So just don't fuck with us. I'm kidding. No, not all of us.
Okay, so we've only got a couple of tips left. This next one would be to mentally be in a good place. It's important because recording is a stressful environment. It takes a lot of patience with different takes, maybe taking lots of takes, to be in a good place, and that's just a really beneficial thing, because you don't want to be adding extra negativity into the environment if you're in a bad place.
Obviously everyone has good days and bad days, and sometimes you're just not going to be in a good place. But the best thing to do is, this comes into our next point as well, is just take care of yourself. Make sure you're well rested before you go into a session, and you're eating right and you're hydrated, because nothing ruins days more than just you've ate like crap the day before, you've been out drinking or whatever, and you come into a session and you're just like, oh, God, I've got to record that part again. Fuck. Ugh. So just look after yourself, make sure you're rested and you're good to go, really.
Yeah. And so, summarise that point, just be in a good place mentally and physically. Just be ready to record. That was all of our tips for studio guitarists. This is part 1. Part 2 is coming up very soon. Before we finish, do you want to plug all of your things that you're doing?
Yeah. I play in a couple of bands, Kesagaki and Red Shores, and I also run and operate 3007. We make metal records, so if you need a producer to help you, or you want someone to mix or master your stuff, hit us up, 3007.
Okay, so that was part 1. We'll see you in part 2.